The early 1960s were a time of optimism but also uncertainty. America had emerged from World War II as a global superpower. Domestic prosperity flourished, but beneath the surface, tensions simmered. The Cold War with the Soviet Union was at its peak. The struggle for civil rights was reshaping the nation. John F. Kennedy, elected in November 1960, embodied a new generation's hopes. At 43, he was the youngest president ever elected. He spoke of a new frontier, the challenge to chart new courses in science, politics, and social justice. Kennedy's presidency had already faced storms: a showdown with Cuba during the Bay of Pigs and the Cuban Missile Crisis, the rising struggle for racial equality, strong but disputed economic policies. Yet to many, he represented vitality, hope, and promise. In late November 1963, Kennedy set his sights on Texas. The state held 25 crucial electoral votes. Winning Texas was vital for Kennedy's 1964 re-election. But Texas Democrats were deeply divided. Some supported Kennedy's progressive stances. Others opposed him, largely over civil rights. First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy joined him on this high-profile trip, her first extended public engagement since the tragic loss of their newborn son, Patrick. The itinerary included stops in San Antonio, Houston, Fort Worth, and finally, Dallas. The last city was viewed as potentially hostile, but also essential. Dallas greeted the Kennedys with clear skies and balmy weather. At 8:45 a.m., the president addressed a breakfast crowd in Fort Worth, charming them with easy humor. "There are no faint hearts in Fort Worth," he said, drawing applause. By late morning, Air Force One touched down at Love Field, Dallas. The first couple exited the plane to cheers, Jacqueline resplendent in her instantly iconic pink suit. Insisting on the open-top limousine, wanting the president to be seen, the Secret Service prepared for their carefully planned route through the city. The Dallas motorcade was a spectacle. Motorcycle police, Secret Service agents, a host of officials. In President Kennedy's limousine, President Kennedy sat on the rear right, Jacqueline Kennedy on his left, Texas Governor John Connally in front of the president, and Nellie Connally, the governor's wife, to her husband's left. Vice President Lyndon Johnson, Dallas Mayor Earl Cable, and others rode in cars behind them. Crowds lined the streets, estimated at 200,000, waving American flags, craning to glimpse the glamorous couple. At about 12:29 p.m., the motorcade turned right onto Houston Street, then made a sharp left onto Elm Street, entering Dealey Plaza. Towering above the route was the Texas School Book Depository, a 7-story building at the intersection. The motorcade slowed to negotiate the turns. People cheered, waving as the limousine glided past the red brick facade of the book depository. At that moment, everything would change. Suddenly, 3 shots pierced the air. In less than 6 seconds, the lives of those in the limousine and the world changed forever. The first shot missed. The second shot struck President Kennedy in the upper back, exiting through his throat. Governor Connally, just in front, was hit moments later. The fatal third shot struck Kennedy in the back of the head. Jacqueline Kennedy reached for her husband. Agent Clint Hill ran from the car behind, leaping onto the limousine as it sped away. Pandemonium erupted. Screams, diving reporters, running police officers. Dallas, the nation, the world, plunged into chaos and disbelief. The limousine hurtled toward Parkland Memorial Hospital, just a few miles away. Doctors and nurses scrambled desperately to save the mortally wounded president. Jacqueline Kennedy refused to leave her husband's side, her pink suit stained with blood. At 1:00 p.m., John F. Kennedy was pronounced dead. He was 46 years old. Governor Connally was gravely wounded but survived. Newsrooms scrambled to confirm the horror. Walter Cronkite, the nation's most trusted broadcaster, removed his glasses and told millions of viewers, from Dallas, Texas, The Flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. For many, the world seemed to stop. In homes, offices, shops, and schools, Americans wept openly. The president's body was wrapped in a simple coffin, the hospital's best available, and brought to Love Field. At Love Field, Air Force One awaited, surrounded by Secret Service and local police. Vice President Lyndon Johnson and his wife, Lady Bird, boarded the plane. Jacqueline Kennedy arrived minutes later, still in her pink suit, face ashen but composed. On board at 2:39 p.m., Federal Judge Sarah T. Hughes administered the oath of office to Lyndon Johnson. Jacqueline stood beside him, her face a mask of shock. America had a new president, but the nation was deep in mourning. Meanwhile, Dallas police fanned out in a frantic hunt for the shooter. On the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository, officers discovered a rifle, a 6.5mm Carcano, that had been fired recently. 3 spent shell casings lay nearby. Attention turned to Lee Harvey Oswald, a 24-year-old ex-Marine employed at the depository. Oswald was soon seen by a police officer inside the building, but was not detained initially. He calmly left, returning to his boarding house. After learning he was a suspect, Oswald fled again. A Dallas police officer, J.D. Tippit, spotted Oswald in Oak Cliff. Oswald shot and killed Tippit, drawing more police attention. Within hours, Oswald was captured inside the Texas Theater, still armed. Lee Harvey Oswald's life was a puzzle. Born in New Orleans, he had a turbulent childhood marked by instability and moves. He joined the Marines at 17, earning sharpshooter qualifications. Oswald defected to the Soviet Union in 1959, married a Russian woman, then returned to the U.S. disillusioned in 1962. He professed Marxist beliefs and was involved in pro-Cuba activities. The oddity of his Russian sojourn put him on intelligence agency radars. After arrest, Oswald denied everything. "I didn't shoot anybody. I'm just a patsy," he declared. 2 days later, on November 24, 1963, Oswald was being transferred from police headquarters to the county jail, live on national television. Suddenly, Jack Ruby, a Dallas nightclub owner, pushed forward and shot Oswald in the abdomen. Oswald died soon after. Ruby claimed he wanted to spare Jacqueline Kennedy the anguish of a trial, but suspicions quickly spread. President Johnson ordered an official inquiry, appointing the Warren Commission, led by Chief Justice Earl Warren. The commission spent nearly a year. It examined forensic evidence, interviewed hundreds of witnesses, viewed films and photographs, and reviewed Oswald's biography in detail. Their conclusion: Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. Jack Ruby also acted alone. They asserted the infamous single bullet theory. One bullet passed through Kennedy and struck Governor Connally. Yet public confidence in the conclusion was never complete. The timing of the gunshots, Oswald's defiant denials, and Ruby's dramatic act produced deep misgivings. Almost from the start, doubts flooded the American consciousness. Some witnesses recalled shots from the grassy knoll, not the book depository. Others distrusted the magic bullet theory. Could one projectile really cause such extensive wounds to 2 men? The absence of clear footage, except for Abraham Zapruder's famous home movie, fueled speculation. Theories proliferated. Some blamed the mafia, angered by Kennedy's crackdown on organized crime. Others pointed to anti-Castro Cubans, Soviet agents, or even rogue elements of the CIA. The lack of transparency, many files were sealed by the government, ensured that suspicions would flourish for generations. The assassination of John F. Kennedy was more than a personal tragedy. It was a national trauma, a blow to American innocence. It dampened the optimism of the early 60s, deepened public distrust in government, and set the tone for an era of upheaval. It spurred countless books, films, and investigations. The Zapruder film became one of the most analyzed images in history. Kennedy never lived to see the passage of sweeping civil rights laws or the fulfillment of his moon landing dream. His successor, Lyndon Johnson, pressed many of these initiatives forward. His presidency forever marked by the torch passed to a new generation. On November 25, 1963, a nation watched as Jacqueline Kennedy, in mourning black, led her husband's funeral procession. A riderless horse followed the caisson bearing the flag-draped coffin. Dignitaries came from every corner of the globe. Millions lined the streets and wept as 3-year-old John Jr. saluted his father's coffin. It was a moment of collective grief and awe. A president struck down in his prime, mourned by millions who saw themselves in his dreams. In the decades since 1963, the search for answers has never stopped. The U.S. House Select Committee on Assassinations in 1979 concluded Kennedy was probably assassinated as a result of a conspiracy, though evidence was inconclusive. In 1992, after the movie JFK, Congress passed the JFK Assassination Records Collection Act, creating a massive archive of documents, many still classified as of 2025. Journalists, historians, and citizens continue to debate what happened. New evidence emerges, old theories resurface. What we know for certain is that Kennedy's death changed not only politics, but also the spirit of a generation. Kennedy's image endures, a symbol of youthful energy, compassion, and ambition. His vision for civil rights, the Peace Corps, and space exploration left deep marks on history. His words, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country," continue to inspire Americans and people around the world. In death, Kennedy became larger than life, a source of hope, a mystery, a martyred hero. The eternal flame burns at his grave in Arlington, a testament to the nation's reverence for its lost leader. Today, Dealey Plaza remains a place of pilgrimage. The Texas School Book Depository is now the sixth-floor museum, dedicated to examining the facts, myths, and ongoing questions. For many, the assassination of John F. Kennedy is not merely a chapter in a history book. It is a living question, a moment that changed everything, a wound and a reminder. Every November, people gather at Dealey Plaza, paying tribute, seeking closure. The motorcade is long gone, but its shadow travels with us still. John F. Kennedy's life and death remind us how much one leader, one vision, and one tragedy can shape the destiny of a nation. Though the truth may never be fully known, the quest endures, across documents, memories, generations. The legacy of a fallen president remains, forever woven into the story of America.